Welcome, heroes, to Dungeonland. I hope to see your guts decorating our walls very soon.
Here they come!
What's happening, guys? This is James Blum with MMOHuts.com. This time we're taking a first look at Dungeonland, a wacky party dungeon crawler from Paradox Interactive. Now, the game has been out for a little while as a buy-to-play title, but as of about a week ago, it transitioned a good portion of the game over to free-to-play. So I'll hop in and I'll show you guys what the game has to offer now as the free admission edition. Alright, so you can probably guess that this is a dungeon crawler from the name, and many of you guys may already have picked up the game on Steam before it went semi-free-to-play. Well, the free-to-play version of the game only includes the Dungeon Maestro Tower and the Dungeon Maestro mode, which makes up essentially one of 4 total game modes in the game. The Dungeon Maestro Tower game mode lets players team up in groups of 3 to venture through the House of Pain, dealing with whatever evil the Dungeon Maestro throws at them. It's essentially the offensive side of the game. Now, the Dungeon Maestro mode is just the opposite. You then get the chance to be the Dungeon Maestro, trying to make 3 other players have a particularly bad day in the dungeon. The defensive side of the game, so to speak. But I'll go into more detail on both, and it's truly what makes the game overall fun, and especially fun with friends. So starting out with the Dungeon Maestro Tower, like I said, it has 3 adventurers, live players, bots, or the combination of both, working together to get through mobs of monsters, hack and slash style. You've got 3 main choices when it comes to class selection: a mage, rogue, and a warrior. You are limited to the body shape and look of your choice other than changing the basic color of the gear that they're wearing, but you can also pick up all kinds of cosmetic items, but I'll talk about that a little bit later on. The mage and the rogue are fairly similar because they're both ranged. They both fire projectiles, but they do have different class abilities and weapon abilities, while the warrior, of course, is melee. And once you've gone through the dungeon several times, looting tons of gold, which honestly is found everywhere, you can use it to purchase your way into a subclass. The rogue gives you the option of the assassin, gunner, or archer. The mage is based around fire, ice, or electricity, and so on, each slightly tweaking the way the class plays, so it's nice that you've got some inexpensive ways to adjust your playstyle very early on in the game. The controls in the game are very straightforward, something I always say, but you can use a gamepad with native controls built right into the game, and it lets you know that that option is available right off the bat, right before you get into the menus. For the keyboard and mouse, which is what I used, you move your character with W, A, S, and D, while spacebar allows you to sort of evade some incoming attacks. Your basic attack, which in the case of the rogue assassin here, or throwing knives, is left click. Right click is a specific class skill. For the Vanguard Warrior here, it's a nice defensive shield, which is pretty cool. Q grants you alternative fire as a weapon skill, which in the case of the Fire Mage here is a wall of fire dealing damage over time. It's pretty effective. But these weapon skills also have a small cooldown that you can see just below their health. The E key lets you use a potion if you have any. You can see that above the health here. And you actually get to choose what they do after you use gold to purchase from a decent variety of them. They're all set up to aid the group, essentially, with buffs like here we have a banner for the warrior that reduces cooldown times for weapon skills and an AoE for a small time frame, or a defibrillator for the mage that can heal and revive down heroes instantly instead of having to risk another life trying to revive a teammate surrounded by a huge group of evil. Either way, they're handy if you've got potions, which you can get more from by killing elite monsters and blowing up trash cans and barrels occasionally. Depending on the difficulty you choose, you can have up to 5 lives to burn through, which are actually shared amongst 3 members of the team. So when you see a team member down, it's best to try and revive them so that way you don't lose a life. But it can actually be pretty tough and risky. You might actually be taken out yourself in the process. Every once in a while, an extra life drops as loot, but if you run out, game over. So that's basically how it works. You can choose from 4 different difficulty levels in which the monsters get considerably tankier, they hit harder, and there's more of them. Not to mention you as a hero take more damage. The nice thing is, in addition to the different difficulties, you can fine-tune the difficulty by adding challenges to it. The challenges you add negatively affect the heroes, like there not being any health drops, or the revival process takes a lot longer, stuff like that. Basically, it's just things that make the task of getting through the dungeon a lot trickier. But other than that, you also run into special mobs that spawn from the Dungeon Maestro. Usually they're mini-bosses with special attributes like a healing aura that heals all the monsters in the area over time, making them a lot more difficult to kill. But the annoying one is invisibility. You only see the guy for like a split second, and then you're attacking the air around you trying to kill him. And sometimes that doesn't work out. But it's nothing compared to the final boss on stage 3 that attacks you in all kinds of different ways, and can be one of about 7 different bosses chosen by the Dungeon Maestro. So yeah, these guys can be pretty tough. And like I sort of said before, there are a couple things on the map that aids you, like these little sheep here. You can use F to pick them up and throw them if need be, but the white ones give you health drops, and the green ones give you a healing aura. The red ones put out a fire AoE, and the black ones explode, doing a lot of damage. So you can kind of use them to your advantage if they're well placed sometimes. But you also want to go around taking out the barrels and trash cans for gold, because you can use this gold to purchase things for your hero. So you can see here in the item shop that you can use the gold to purchase, like I showed you earlier, the potions, but also cosmetic items for your hero that do nothing other than change the way your hero looks. It even says right here, 100% useless, no stats, guaranteed. And that goes for every item that you can find on here. Plus, you'll notice that the only time you'll spend real currency in the game is if you want to purchase bundles of exclusive cosmetic items, whether they're weapons or gear. And once again, they're purely cosmetic. Now, the other thing you might spend real cash on is unlocking the individual game modes or buying the all-access pack, which, of course, gets you access to all the game modes. Alright, so as far as the defensive side of the game, the Dungeon Maestro mode, you get to be the DM trying to stop the heroes from getting through the dungeon. And honestly, this seems to be a lot easier than trying to fight through the dungeon itself. But then again, you get some hardcore players in there, and I bet it can get pretty challenging. Not to mention the difficulty setting is backwards. The harder you set it, the easier it is for you, because the heroes take more damage from your mobs, whereas if you select the easy or very easy difficulty, the heroes take almost no damage whatsoever. So that gives you the challenge you might be looking for. I honestly want to see a video of somebody trying to beat the very easy hero bots as the Dungeon Maestro. So definitely link that in the comments below. But the way this game mode works is before you start, you set up a loadout of spells, monsters, specials, a boss, a possession, and a trait. And they work in the form of cards. Spells are pretty straightforward. They're things that you can do directly to the heroes or in aid of the monsters. Things like fake pickups that explode or healing auras for the monsters. The specials are monsters that are a bit more tricky than your regular mobs. For the most part, they stay back and attack from a distance, often placing themselves right behind another monster for protection. And of course, the boss is used on the final stage if the heroes actually make it that far. And you actually get to control the boss, which has several different powerful skills at hand, including an ultra that is pretty devastating.
Stop struggling and just die already.
But once you've picked out your loadout, you are dealt your cards randomly, and you can choose them if you have enough mana, which you gain slowly over time. It also seems like you can spam the laugh button for a small boost in mana, or to at least annoy the heroes. That's what I like to use it for. If the heroes take damage from your spells and mobs, it adds to your evil meter here on the left, and once it gets to 150, it gives you the choice to spawn a giant mob of monsters with specials or one elite badass monster with a special attribute. And that usually does the trick. This is the same mini-boss that you have to deal with as the heroes, and without teamwork, it can actually be pretty tough, like I said before. From what I've played so far as the Dungeon Maestro, there doesn't seem to be a way to earn gold in that position, but if you have a lot of gold, you can use it to purchase more monsters, spells, bosses, specials, etc. to change up the tactics trying to kill your friends in the dungeon. And so overall, the game is wacky and fun, sort of the same way the first couple of Mario Party games were fun. I'm not saying that they're the same, but it's got that same sort of burst of fun that you get when playing those type of games with friends. You know, they're kind of good for everyone. And seeing that the game is free to play, it's definitely worth checking out, no matter what types of games that you typically like. It's got a lot of comedy, and it's got enough variety to its challenging elements to keep the repetitive content overall entertaining. The game is definitely not pay to win with its cash shop, which is pretty standard coming from games that transition over from buy to play to free to play, even if it's only partially free to play. But other than that, guys, that's what you get out of the free admission edition of Dungeonland. If you're looking for more information about the game, head over to our fresh new game profile at MMOHuts.com. But until next time, guys, that's going to be it for me. I'm James Blonde. See you out there, gamers.
I am actually glad